The Indonesian military and government say the top priority now is to stop the violence and religious extremism from spreading. Maria Ressa, CNN, Jakarta.
For Worldview, I'm Bernard Shaw. The Moneyline News Hour is next.
Tonight, a mixed day on Wall Street, but not for four market stars. AOL, Time Warner, Yahoo, and Microsoft, all with one thing in common: their stocks under serious pressure.
The drop in AOL and Time Warner of particular concern to AOL President Bob Pittman. He'll tell us why skeptics of the mega deal are wrong.
The deal dethroned as history's biggest media marriage, CBS Viacom. But is the chief executive worried? We'll find out from Sumner Redstone himself.
And Hollywood's $350 million man, David E. Kelley, now the best paid TV producer in history, who brought Ally and the rest of the firm into prime time.
Let's all say it together. Money.
This is the Moneyline News Hour. Reporting tonight from New York, Stuart Varney and Willow Bay.
Good evening. Breaking news tonight on the U.S. versus Microsoft. Confirmed reports that the government favors breaking up the software giant.
But first to Wall Street, where hopes for a high-tech rebound were quickly dashed. While the blue chips did indeed manage a modest gain, the Nasdaq followed up on yesterday's ugly session with another sharp drop. A key culprit here, interest rate fears, as bond yields jumped to levels not seen since the summer of 1997. And those fears may only intensify over the next 2 days. Rhonda Schaffler reports.
The specter of rising interest rates cast a shadow over Wall Street Wednesday. Anticipating a central bank tightening, traders pushed the yield on 30-year Treasury bonds to their highest level in 2.5 years. Debt-dependent tech stocks took it on the chin. The Nasdaq Composite took another steep tumble, dropping 71 points to close at 3850.
Volatility right now is coming from this tug of war we're having between the perception of slightly higher interest rates out there, and then on the other hand, we're right on the brink of blowaway earnings numbers from these big technology companies that are about to come out.
But the blue chips managed to ride through a rocky session. By the closing bell, the Dow Jones Industrial Average picked up 40 points to close at 11,551. One Dow component supporting the big board, General Motors. Boeing is reportedly interested in buying the automaker's satellite business, a unit of GM's subsidiary, Hughes Electronics. General Motors added more than $3 on the day. While the Dow managed to buck the interest rate worries that rode technology stocks south, some analysts wonder if all sectors will suffer at some point.
We just don't know where the breaking point is. Rising interest rate and rising stock prices are incompatible at some point. And I think the little congestion that we're starting to see in this market over the last several days is saying that we're approaching that point.
That point may be sharpened tomorrow morning with release of December data on wholesale inflation. Stuart?
Rhonda, there is usually some kind of consensus from the economists about what we should expect in those numbers. So what is that consensus figure?
It's 0.3% increase, which is slightly higher than what the market put up with the month before.
Anything higher than that would be negative for the bond market, presumably.
Yes, because again, the bond market and the stock market can tolerate little ticks up in inflation on some of these reports, but not big moves.
Rhonda Schaffler, right there at the big board. Thank you, Rhonda. Now, another reason for trepidation ahead is the speech by Fed Chairman Alan Greenspan. Tomorrow it comes up. Trepidation there and upcoming economic numbers are going to be dealt another blow to the bond market today. After treading water much of the day, the 30-year issue went under. It was down 17 seconds, the yield moving up to 6.71%, and that's up nearly a quarter point in less than 2 weeks.
It wasn't the bond market that sent shares of AOL and Time Warner down today, but persistent doubts about history's biggest deal. Time Warner fell 5.5%, while AOL lost 4 7/8, with some investors questioning whether old media will slow down an internet star. Later on Moneyline, a top executive who says AOL will be strong with Time Warner on board. That's AOL President Bob Pittman.
Well, the fate of another corporate giant is in the spotlight tonight, Microsoft, in its battle with the government. Sources confirmed to Moneyline that federal and state officials are recommending a breakup of the company into 3 parts. That recommendation was given Monday to the federal judge mediating settlement talks. Microsoft stock fell more than 3.5 points today. We'll have much more on this developing story later, right here on Moneyline. Not just Microsoft having a losing day, tech stocks overall tumbled again. For more on that, we turn to Charles Molyneux. Charles?
Well, Stuart, technology investors waffled for a good part of today until they decided they were more worried about rising interest rates than they were excited about what is expected to be a good fourth quarter earnings season. The NASDAQ composite deteriorated into broad selling today. Stocks that went down outnumbered those that went up by 19 to 17, and yeah, we ended the day down 71 points. Interest rate sensitive financial, biotechnology, and computer stocks all saw the worst of the selling, although semiconductor stocks rallied 3%, and the granddaddy of the chips, Intel, gained 1.7% or $1.09 on expectations of a good earnings report tomorrow. As it has done after previous earnings report, Yahoo sold off steeply yet again, down $39 or 10%, as did the rest of the internet names. They fell yet again today. The sector lost another 7%. But telecoms rose. Nextel was especially strong today, gaining $6 or 7% on news it may have an easier than expected time wrestling some valuable FCC licenses from a bankrupt competitor, Next Wave. Strategists say a lot now depends on the latest inflation news coming out tomorrow, as well as what we get on Friday, and Intel's earnings report, which comes out tomorrow night after the close, which, if it is very positive, could expand Intel's coattails to lift other techs, or let them drop if it isn't. Stuart, Willow?
Is Intel really that big a deal? Well, you've also got pricing figures coming out, the consumer price index later this week, producer prices tomorrow. How does Intel rank there?
Intel is very important. Of course, there will be a lot of attention paid to those economic numbers as everybody worries about inflation and interest rates. Inflation and interest rates have really become paramount in a lot of investors' minds. But strategists look at this market and say we are headed for what they are thinking is going to be a very strong earnings season for technology names in particular. Intel is one of the biggest, and it is one of the first that we're going to be getting out as we head into maybe a couple of weeks of earnings reports. This one could definitely affect the outlook as people try to buy ahead of other earnings reports that are going to be coming up a little bit later. So this one is a very important name, a very big one, and definitely a major bellwether.
Point taken. Charles Molyneux at the NASDAQ market site. Thanks, Charles.
The most active stock on the NASDAQ again today, MCI WorldCom. It bounced back a bit from the 52-week low it set yesterday. It gained 1 5/8 in very heavy volume. 75 million shares traded hands. Analysts rushed this morning to dismiss concerns that MCI WorldCom's revenue growth would suffer from the AOL Time Warner mega deal. Greg Clarkin has more.
You don't know what it's like to leave the farm with cow manure on your boots and have to put this miserable suit on to come to the big city.
And to the big city Bernie Evers did go today, Washington, D.C., where the chairman of MCI WorldCom made his case for buying Sprint, just as regulators begin to pick through the proposed deal, and at a time when his once high-flying stock is trading near 52-week lows. Shares of MCI WorldCom are down about 30% from midsummer highs, and analysts say it's all about uncertainty over everything from the Sprint deal to revenue growth.
Some of the analyst estimates out there lowering their expected growth rates by less than 1% has caused the stock to sell off. And that just doesn't make sense.
And then there's the America Online Time Warner deal. MCI WorldCom transmits big chunks of AOL's internet traffic. Some feared that would change, but analysts say that business may actually grow with the deal. Evers offered guidance on revenue growth and also said MCI WorldCom will be on the prowl for deals in Europe and would like to offer phone service of all distances in New York.
If you are not all distance in this business, you won't go the distance. That means providing local, long-distance, international, data, internet, wireline, and wireless services.
MCI WorldCom Sprint links the number 2 and 3 long-distance carriers, but analysts say with rates now pennies a minute, the business is too competitive to raise prices.
So regulators are expected to focus on those internet backbone businesses. Analysts expect Sprint's unit will be sold. Any demands for MCI WorldCom to sell its unit they believe could be a deal breaker. Well,
Greg, what about the AOL issue? How much of that internet traffic comes from AOL?
It's a gigantic client. Analysts estimate about 60% worth roughly $1 billion a year in revenues.
Greg Clarkin, thank you.
Sure.
All right, now let's find out what some of Moneyline's other reporters are working on for tonight's program, and we'll start with Steve Young. Steve.
Stuart, we learned late today prosecutors will push to break up Microsoft into 3 separate companies. It's the most radical prosecutor proposal since the company was declared a predatory monopolist. We'll have details.
I'm Casey Wyan in Los Angeles. Another executive defection at Walt Disney. We'll tell you what's behind the departure of the head of the company's motion picture division.
Also coming up on Moneyline, some of the day's biggest movers, and we'll tell you about $1 billion after the bell deal.
And later, a traditional media mogul on the power of new media. Sumner Redstone of Viacom says it's nothing less than the start of a revolution.
From CNN's New York headquarters, this is the Moneyline News Hour.
Moneyline News Hour is brought to you by the Archer Daniels Midland Company. ADM, supermarket to the world.
Doing what's natural means doing what's right for you. Like Nova Soy isoflavones from ADM. Made from soybeans, you'll find Nova Soy in dietary supplements that carry this leaf. One little pill every day could make a big difference in your overall health, especially in middle-aged women. Isoflavones can help your body through the changes of this transitional stage in life, including those that affect bone health and your overall sense of well-being and vitality. It's your health. It's your life. Do what's right for you. Nova Soy isoflavones from ADM. Do what comes naturally.
I will not be afraid of the dark.
I will not feel guilty leaving my dog alone.
I will feel better about my dad living by himself.
I will know my children are safe.
I will go on vacation and finally be able to relax.
ADT's advanced technology and skilled professionals help more people feel safe in more ways than any other security company. Call now and get our sophisticated burglary system installed for as little as $99.
Secret burglar alarm.
Plus, get 2 months free monitoring.
I will live my life.
My life.
My life.
On my terms!
Call now and get the ADT burglary system from $99 installed, plus 2 months free monitoring. Get the power of ADT.
Here are some of tonight's Moneyline movers. K-Swiss dropped 4 1/4 after the athletic shoemaker warned that its fourth quarter earnings would be 5 to 15 cents less than market forecasts. Reba slumped more than 18. The business-to-business web software company lost 7 cents a share last quarter, but that was a smaller loss than Wall Street expected. And then there's Intel. It gained more than 1.5 points. The #1 chip maker is scheduled to report quarterly results tomorrow.
Other companies making news. Applied Materials says it's buying E-Tech Systems for more than $1.5 billion in stock. E-Tech makes equipment to print patterns on semiconductor wafers. In after-hours trading, E-Tech jumped 25 to 76.5, and Applied Materials dipped about 3 to 124. Genentech slumped 15 3/4 after its majority owner Roche Holdings said it will issue a zero-coupon bond exchangeable for Genentech shares. Roche is looking to raise $1 billion through the bond offering. No word on an exchange ratio on bonds to Genentech shares. And Merrill Lynch says it's getting out of the commodities business. This to refocus on its core businesses in financial services. Time now for a look at some of the day's other top stories outside the world of business in the Moneyline News Digest. The Justice Department standing firm in the Elian Gonzalez dispute. Attorney General Janet Reno says anyone challenging Washington's decision to return the boy to his father in Cuba must do so in federal court. The youngster's Miami relatives plan to try that next week. A legal decision on privacy from the Supreme Court. The justices ruled unanimously that Congress is allowed to bar states from selling the personal information on driver's licenses. And Turkey, delaying the execution of a Kurdish rebel leader whose death sentence triggered protests across Europe. Ankara says it will postpone the hanging of Abdullah Öcalan until the European Court of Human Rights rules on his case. Coming up, we'll hear about hidden investment opportunities from a veteran Wall Street player.
Yes, we'll talk to Ted Forsman about how to make money in education. We'll be back.
You sit here. They sit there. Here and there. You and them. Morningstar sits over here on your side of the table. Together, we are us, which is everything you need to invest smarter. Before you invest, investigate at Morningstar.com. Your first second opinion.
6 weeks before one of the biggest games of my life, I felt a strange pain in my chest. What my doctor found was my toughest opponent yet. 3 of my arteries were more than 90% blocked. After recovering from surgery, lowering my high cholesterol became more important than football. Later, I was fortunate enough to coach my team in the biggest game of the season. That's the kind of play we need! Along with a healthy diet and regular exercise, taking Zocor every day helps significantly lower my total cholesterol.
Zocor is a prescription medication and is not right for everyone, including women who are nursing, pregnant, or may become pregnant, or people with liver problems. Your doctor may do blood tests to check for liver problems. Because serious side effects can result, tell your doctor about any muscle pain or weakness you experience while on Zocor and about any medicines you are taking.
When diet and exercise are not enough, talk to your doctor about Zocor. Take care of yourself. It's your future. Be there.
Sunday on CNN and Time. He's an acclaimed historian who says no document proves Hitler ordered the extermination of the Jews, or that there were gas chambers at Auschwitz.
The Poles themselves have now admitted there were no gas chambers.
Now he's going to court to show why he says he's not a Holocaust denier.
Anybody who's a Holocaust denier is finished. He's floating face down dead in the water.
Are the facts of history on trial? CNN and Time, Sunday, 9 Eastern on CNN.
Now let's take a look at some of the stocks that hit new 52-week highs today. There were some: Redback Networks, Cypress Semiconductor, Best Software, Enron, and Advanced Micro Devices. Our next guest this evening offering a call to arms to challenge the educational system. And he sees a hidden market for those ready to put their money into for-profit education. We now welcome Ted Forsman, co-founder of the Children's Scholarship Fund. Ted, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Let me see if I've got this right, because you've got a plan here and you've got a lot of support for it. Essentially, you want to privatize public education. Give to parents the money that currently goes to the schools and let them decide where to spend it. Have I basically got that right?
Yes. We believe that the parent should be responsible and in charge of the education of a child, and our founders believe that. We had a system that operated that way for 100 years and was changed in 1850. And yeah, and what's missing now is supply.
But your bottom line is that the public education system as it exists is a monopoly and it's broken. Is that basically it?
Yeah, it's a monopoly that doesn't work like all other monopolies don't work. They make for a bad product at a high price, and this one is no different. And what they're very good at is keeping alternative sources of supply out of the marketplace. So we demonstrated demand. We had 1,250,000 applications from underprivileged families for our partial scholarships. Now we need to get supply, and we had a big conference today, and there were a lot of suppliers there.
You had 1,250,000 applicants for how many places were you offering?
40,000, and what's really amazing is that each applicant had to have a low income. They couldn't have income of more than $20,000, and they each had to agree to put up $1,000 a year for 4 years. So I'll do the math for you. Yeah. 1,250,000 times 1,000 times 4 is $5 billion that poor people who heard of our program were willing to come up with. And bear in mind, they get the present product for free.
I have to say here that the administration is doing its best to go against the perceived monopoly operated by Microsoft, and yet is defending vigorously the monopoly which public education holds in this country. You're going to have enormous political opposition to what you're suggesting.
Yeah, but you know, everything's got to start somewhere, and I think the conference we had today has it was pretty interesting. We had people in agreement from as disparate as Martin Luther King III, John Doerr, who was the famous venture capitalist, and Merrill Lynch put this on. So you can see things are beginning to boil.
We wish you the best of luck with your product. Ted Forsman, thanks very much for being with us.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
Willow?
Thanks, Stuart. Coming up, a closer look at what could be a dramatic end to an historic antitrust battle, the U.S. versus Microsoft, and a blockbuster deal for Ally McBeal's creator. We'll tell you about David E. Kelley and the fattest paycheck in TV production after the break.
As the world ushered in a new millennium, CNN led the way with unprecedented coverage you've come to expect.
The hostages are being released
including the only live footage of the Indian Airlines hostage release, and first with the dramatic change in Russian leadership.
Boris Yeltsin has just announced that he is going to cede the reins of power.
Once again, the eyes of the world were on CNN, the world's news leader.
They're the largest creatures on Earth. They've adapted and evolved with strength and determination. The kind of strength that helps the Pacific Life family of companies manage more than $300 billion for its clients. And determination that has guided Pacific Life for 130 years. Size, strength, longevity, offering annuities, insurance and investments. Use the power of Pacific Life.
Can a computer think? Can it learn? Can software be developed that acts exactly like the human brain? For 50 years, that's been the question. Today, Nugents are the answer. Using a patented breakthrough in neural network technology, Computer Associates has created the first software that can think. Imagine what this new software can do for your business. Nugents, software that can think.
Until now, there has been a wall between you and the tools of serious trading. That wall is coming down. The information and technology professionals use to trade is now available to everyone. Daytech Online. The rules are changing.
Breaking news tonight on the most important antitrust battle of our times, the U.S. versus Microsoft. Sources confirmed to Moneyline that federal and state officials are recommending a breakup of the company into 3 parts. That recommendation was given Monday to the federal judge mediating settlement talks. Joining us now, an antitrust expert who's been following the case very closely, William Kovacic, professor at George Washington University. Thank you for joining us tonight. William, is this a fairly aggressive recommendation?
This is an aggressive recommendation. This is one of the most powerful remedies the government could seek. It sends an important and strong message about their remedial intentions. There's nothing more powerful they could seek here.
But is it necessarily the worst case scenario for investors?
I think it probably makes a settlement less likely in this case if we take at face value Microsoft's suggestion that this kind of solution is simply out of the question. If Microsoft means to establish that position and stick with it, it means that they'll litigate the case to the finish. So to the extent that a solution sooner rather than later reduces uncertainty and helps investors, this probably means that we're in for a fairly long haul.
What is the alternative to a breakup of the company? Would it be a very large fine and monitoring by lawyers as to Microsoft's future business activity?
The government has put the possibility of a fine out of the question, so the other alternative would be either a structural counterpart to a breakup, which is to force Microsoft to license its Windows source code, or some form of controls over its conduct. The benefit of the conduct-related controls is that they might be imposed relatively swiftly, that is, within this year, perhaps by agreement with Microsoft. The breakup solution, or the licensing solution, on the other hand, wouldn't be put in place because they're irreversible until the very end of the case. If this goes the distance in the appeals, that's 2.5 to 3 years away.
Would either of these solutions negate the possibility of state attorneys general suing Microsoft for operating a monopoly in their states and winning big bucks from the company?
I think it is highly likely that this would be the state's one and only shot at this target. That is, the states seem to be putting all of their chips behind a structural solution. I think it's highly unlikely that the states would separately then seek to recover damages. But the fact of the structural solution itself would be very powerful if they achieved it.
Given these two alternatives as you describe them, is there one of the two evils that Microsoft really would prefer? Is in some ways a breakup beneficial to Microsoft?
If we look at past divestiture experience, and I think the best example is the AT&T settlement with the Justice Department that resulted in the breakup in the 1980s. AT&T's position to the public throughout that proceeding was that you had to preserve the integrity of the Bell operating system, that you couldn't possibly break that up. We only knew that a breakup was possible on the day that it was announced. There was a great surprise there. I suppose it is conceivable that somewhere in Redmond, there's a group of Microsoft executives thinking about the possibility of a breakup. If Microsoft saw that there was a path to a better future in a restructuring, they might join forces with the government and pursue it. But everything we've seen so far in their public announcements suggests that that's out of the question. But we have to keep in mind the 5% possibility that maybe there are forces within Microsoft that are thinking about it.
I'm sorry to interrupt you there, Professor, but we do indeed thank you very much for joining us on such short notice on Moneyline. Thank you, sir.
Thanks so much.
This is a major developing story. We will have more on it in our next half hour. Willow?
Finally, in this half hour, David Kelly has already created fame and fortune for the lawyer stars of Ally McBeal in The Practice. Now he's wheeled and dealed a windfall for himself. A new pact with Fox will make him the highest paid television producer ever. Tony Guida has the story.
Let's all say it together.
Money. Ally McBeal is smiling at that crack, but it's her creator, David Kelly, who's laughing the loudest, about $350 million worth. Mr. Kelly makes his living creating television, and he's done quite nicely, thank you, with McBeal and The Practice and Chicago Hope and Picket Fences. Emmys he's got, praise from critics he's got, a movie star wife he's got, Michelle Pfeiffer no less, money he's got, but not all of it, not yet. But just wait, Kelly had signed a new deal that even in the hyper-inflated world of television is gargantuan. 20th Century Fox is moving Mr. Kelly out of the land of hired help.
This deal means they're partners. Look, the way it's structured is, if Kelly has a hit, they're going to split that really lucrative rerun syndication money, 50-50. That's unprecedented.
Unprecedented because television studios have always managed to keep the majority of syndication's golden eggs. But David Kelly, with his 50% cut of the back end, in television jargon, on top of the millions he'll be paid up front, stands to become the highest paid producer in television history.
What makes this 43-year-old so valuable?
The Fox television network is in big trouble. None of their fall shows worked. They were all failures in the ratings. The overall ratings season to date are down significantly from a year ago. And when you get in that kind of trouble, you have to go out and try to get the closest thing to a sure bet as you can. In this case, that's David Kelly.
Kelly is not infallible. He flopped last fall with a detective show called Snoops. But this deal is not about the past. It's a bet on a platinum-edged future.
Is David Kelly blessed? You look at this deal, you look who he's married to, you look at his creative output, you'd have to say, yeah, he is.
Tony Guida, CNN Financial News, New York.
Stay right there, please. We'll be back with more Moneyline featuring the Microsoft story after this.
Weekdays, the most complete Wall Street wrap-up on television. Now live from the New York Stock Exchange. Street Sweep, weekdays at 3:59 on CNN.
Let CNBC energize your investments. Enter CNBC's Dividend Sweepstakes and be eligible to win the national grand prize of $10,000, the local first prize of $1,000, or a set of Wall Street Journal financial guidebooks. Enter CNBC's Dividend Sweepstakes and profit from it.
Enter to win at Freeman Wellwood Discount Stockbrokers in Portland, 121 Southwest Morrison. Call 1-888-607-FREE.
If you could change the way you buy a car right now, would you do it? Well, you don't have to, because we've already done it for you. Over 300,000 new and used vehicles in one place. Shop by make, model, year, and dealer, and never shop the old-fashioned way again. AutomallUSA.com.
Looks like the Blanchards just got some new computer equipment. The Elliots, a restaurant-style fridge. And how about the Toomey's home theater system? Nice. Well, the Simons have something none of the neighbors have. Electricity. Introducing the Coleman Vertex generator. It's easy to move and starts with a key. So when the power goes out, your family won't miss a thing. Coleman, making sure life goes on.
Get fit with the Awesome Hour Upper Body Home Workout, the new video from the creators of the best-selling Fitness Made Simple program. Work out with fitness celebrity John Bastow at home and learn the keys to sculpting a lean, muscular physique.
The Awesome Hour Upper Body Home Workout provides exercises to help build your chest, back, shoulders, biceps, triceps, and even abs.
Just 1 hour or less for each workout. Now there's no time excuse for not staying in shape. Have your credit card ready and call now to order.
Sports Tonight with Fred and Vince, 11 Eastern on CNN. The Moneyline News Hour continues. Here again, Stuart Varney and Willow Bay.
America Online and Time Warner said their deal would transform the media business, but investors are afraid it will transform AOL's high-flying stock. He says the AOL Time Warner link-up was unthinkable just a year ago. Tonight, Viacom's Sumner Redstone on the digital revolution in media. And another steep drop for techs as long-term interest rates reached a near 2.5-year high.
First, our top story, a new development tonight in what could be the government's remedy to the Microsoft antitrust case. Federal prosecutors want to push a federal judge into breaking the software giant into 3 parts instead of forcing it to change its business practices. Reports of a breakup sent Microsoft stock down for the second straight day. It lost more than 3.5 points. Steve Young has more on the story.
Two sources close to the prosecution confirmed late today that government and state lawyers suing the world's biggest software company want to carve up Microsoft into 3 pieces. This after winning a ruling from federal judge Thomas Penfield Jackson that Microsoft has a Windows monopoly and abused it in predatory ways. Justice Department lawyers made the breakup proposal at a secret meeting in Washington last week with representatives of 19 states also suing Microsoft. Late this afternoon, Microsoft spokesman Mark Murray called the prosecutor's plan an extreme and radical proposal that is not justified by anything in the case and doesn't reflect the reality of the competitive industry. Microsoft also says it is ironic that anyone would be talking about breaking up Microsoft at the time America Online and Time Warner did the largest merger in history designed to compete with Microsoft. The prosecutor's proposal, sources say, has been filed with federal mediator Richard Posner. He meets next with prosecutors on Monday. Posner has been meeting with the company each Tuesday. The exact nature of the 3 separate business units to be proposed by the prosecutors wasn't revealed by the sources, but evidently they would be a unit which would deal with operating systems like Windows, a unit which would deal with applications like Word, and a unit which would deal with internet business like Expedia.
Some details of the story first surfaced in USA Today. The Justice Department called aspects of that story inaccurate, but didn't issue a flat denial. Some antitrust lawyers say prosecutors may be trying to pressure Microsoft to make more changes in its business practices than it would otherwise to avoid an outright breakup.
Steve, is this the definitive position of the prosecutors? Break it up.
Hard to say. It could be an endgame ploy. They may be trying to put Microsoft in a vice and squeeze as hard as they can.
Where did this story come from? Do we have any sense of where it originated?
Well, if you look at the locus of the story, it appears to be coming from the prosecutors, but one antitrust lawyer I spoke with said it could be the company that somehow was leaking this. The company, some think, would actually prefer a breakup to a bureau of Microsoft governing its day-to-day business.
You mentioned the 3 different parts that it could be broken up into. Could those 3 separate parts function efficiently?
Probably they could, but Microsoft says, what kind of remedy would this be? There would still be a monopoly if there is one in operating systems. What kind of solution is that?
Would it lose Microsoft its vitality and dynamism?
Microsoft would say yes. Some business history suggests that maybe the pieces are worth more than the whole.
Fair enough. Steve Young, thank you for reporting that.
Well, the drop in Microsoft stock couldn't keep the Dow down. Blue chip stocks today staged a modest rally, even as interest rates in the bond market hit their highest level since July of 1997. The Dow Industrials rose 40 points to close at 11,551, about 20 points shy of their all-time high. Volume on the big board, 974 million shares. Despite the Dow's gain, losers beat out winners by an 8-7 margin. The number of stocks hitting new 52-week highs, 53, versus the number of new 52-week lows, 83. But a sell-off in techs knocked the wind out of the NASDAQ. The index fell 71 points to end at 3850. Volume was 1.5 billion shares. Among the stocks weighing on the NASDAQ, Intel, Apple, CMGI, Qualcomm, and Oracle. Cutting into tech stocks, another jump in bond yields. The 30-year Treasury fell more than half a point in price. The yield at 6.71%. Again, that's a 2.5-year high.
Yahoo was a big drag on the NASDAQ for a second straight day. Even though its earnings news late yesterday handily beat expectations, Yahoo shares fell more than 39 3/4, now down 12% this week. Peter Viles has more.
For the second day in a row, investors hammered shares of Yahoo, the internet's second most visited company. Pressure appears to be coming from two fronts. Fears that Yahoo might follow AOL and link up with a slower growing traditional media company, and Yahoo's own warning that its growth will probably slow down. Yahoo's CEO took pains today to tell investors he will not be pressured into following AOL's lead.
We bought about 13 companies, as you know, and we're going to continue to be acquisitive, but we're going to do it where it makes sense and actually adds to the growth of the company as opposed to slowing the company down.
What about Michael Eisner's Disney or Rupert Murdoch's News Corp? Neither is growing as fast as Yahoo. Does that mean Yahoo is not interested in merging with them?
It's an analysis or an interpretation I'll leave up to you.
Yahoo is sitting on a rich currency, however, a market cap hovering near $100 billion. And analysts expect that the company will put at least some of that currency to work.
But I do think that the same way as AOL and Time Warner were a pretty surprising combination in the way they've combined, that AOL actually has acquired Time Warner. I think that Yahoo will have some surprises for us down the line.
Yahoo has made its reputation with consumers as a gateway, the guide that helps you find content, but doesn't actually own the content. And Google said that model will continue. Peter Viles, CNN Financial News, New York.
The deal that has everyone jockeying for position in the media business is facing some tough scrutiny on Wall Street. America Online's historic merger with Time Warner. Time Warner today slumped 5.5%, and AOL stock plunged 4 7/8. It's now down 35% from its 52-week high. Up next on Moneyline, one-on-one with Sumner Redstone.
Yeah, we'll find out what the Viacom chief has to say about the America Online Time Warner deal. That's just ahead.
Oh, come on, you can't stay another day?
I wish I could. I'm just so crazed with the new job. I don't even have time to figure out my finances.
We went through the same thing when we got this house. And with the new baby coming, we needed help.
So what'd you guys do?
Called T. Rowe Price.
Really?
Yeah, it was great. It really helped simplify things. Give him a call.
Okay, I will.
What a big brother's for, right? Come on, get out of there. You go.
Bye.
Bye.
T. Rowe Price, helping people invest with confidence for over 60 years.
Tonight, in the crossfire, 3 weeks until the first primary of Campaign 2000. John McCain leads George W. Bush in New Hampshire, but can he do the same across the country? Tonight, 7:30 Eastern on CNN. Tonight, on The World Today, many Chinese dream of a new life in the United States, but the method of travel is much to be desired. A look at what can be done to stop the modern-day slave trade. Tonight, 8 Eastern on CNN.
Sunday on CNN and Time. He's an acclaimed historian who says no document proves Hitler ordered the extermination of the Jews, or that there were gas chambers at Auschwitz.
The Poles themselves have now admitted there were no gas chambers.
Now he's going to court to show why he says he's not a Holocaust denier.
Anybody who's a Holocaust denier is finished. He's floating face down dead in the water.
Are the facts of history on trial? CNN and Time, Sunday, 9 Eastern on CNN.
He is the architect of what was, until Monday, the biggest media marriage of all time, Viacom and CBS. Today, Viacom Chief Executive Sumner Redstone spoke out about the rapid changes in his industry and congratulated rivals Steve Case and Jerry Levin for validating what he said long ago: content is king. Earlier today, I spoke with Redstone and began by asking him whether content is still king or whether it's been trumped by distribution.
People don't watch distribution. I don't care whether it's the internet or whatever. They watch what's on it. What makes distribution successful is the quality of the programming and the content.
So then when you look at the this week's Time Warner AOL deal, you believe that the primary asset in that deal was not the broadband access, but the content.
Yes, I truly do. You know, I know there have been some cynics about that deal, but I want to take this opportunity to say, because I get the question all the time, Jerry Levin, and I'm not being patronizing, is a giant visionary and leader. He runs a great company. The same is true of Case and AOL. This is going to work for the stockholders, believe me. What I like about that deal, though, in many ways, or many things I like about it, but one prevailing like of mine is the fact that it validates the value of content.
Do you think this deal is a sign of many mergers to come?
Yes. Well, I don't know that this deal will propel or inspire many mergers to come, but I do think there will be many mergers to come.
You were called the most likely target by media analyst David Londoner when we asked him the question, who's next? Are you next?
Well, it depends what you mean by next to what. Look, the way I look at it is very simple. Viacom is a great company. Was a great company without CBS, doing wonderfully. CBS is a great company without Viacom. We put them together, and frankly, we're just about everywhere we want to be. You don't even think about it. Preeminent in radio, outdoor advertising, television, networks, cable networks, the studio, and so on. So do we need to do anything else? Not a chance. Is there a possibility? You know, we recognize that out there today, there are some great companies, maybe almost as great as we are, who covet, they covet content, just as we value it. And with all due regard to my friend Jerry Levin, we are king of content. So there could be a deal, but it would be have to be a very, very smart deal. If there were one there, we would look at it very seriously, but believe me, very, very cautiously and carefully.
And, for example, there's been a great deal of speculation that Yahoo is looking for a partner. Is that a deal that you think would make sense for CBS Viacom?
Well, I don't want to comment on specific deals, but if I have to, I'd say no.
Because?
Just because.
You have witnessed a great number of transformations in the media business. You've witnessed the birth of network television. You've watched the movie industry grow into a global powerhouse. How significant a transformation on the media industry is the birth of the internet?
I think it's tremendous. I mean, I don't think we yet can visualize what the internet means. There's a revolution going on. More and more people are coming online. It's going all over the world. There's a global revolution on the internet. We participate on it, with MTV, Nickelodeon, CBS has created a lot of valuable internet assets, but we're all just at the beginning of a giant revolution involving this new technology, the internet.
Sumner Redstone, as always, thank you for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me.
There you have it. Viacom was one of several media stocks that exploded Monday on word of that AOL Time Warner deal, but that rally was short-lived, and the sector came under pressure for a second straight day. Viacom, CBS, Disney, News Corp, Sony, all of them sharply lower.
Up next on Moneyline, Disney loses another top executive.
And we'll tell you why the man behind its box office success is leaving when Moneyline returns.
Tonight's Sectors Report is brought to you by KPMG. KPMG. It's time for clarity.
He's man's best friend. Always there when you need him. Faithful to the end. So it's good to know that if you don't keep up with internet technology, someone will still be there for you.
the world today. Many Chinese dream of a new life in the United States, but the method of travel is much to be desired. A look at what can be done to stop the modern-day slave trade. Tonight, 8 Eastern on CNN.
Tonight on the Emmy Award-winning Larry King Live.
The Southern Baptist Convention wants to convert Jews. Southern Baptist ministers and Jewish rabbis face off on the debate tonight, 9 Eastern on CNN.
1931. New adventures, new experiences. And a revolutionary wristwatch catches the spirit of the Art Deco age. The Reverso. Turn it over to reveal the other side of time. The Reverso by Jaeger-LeCoultre. Avant-garde since 1931.
Sunday on Cold War. Churchill arrives with a warning.
An iron curtain has descended across the continent.
But most ignore the signs of a coming Cold War. The landmark documentary continues. Sunday, 10/9 Central on CNN.
CNN Financial News has confirmed that Boeing is in talks to buy the satellite business of Hughes Electronics for more than $3 billion. An industry source says the deal could still collapse, but an announcement could come as early as tomorrow. Hughes, owned by General Motors, is the dominant player in the satellite business. Hughes shares have skyrocketed in recent months as analysts have speculated that the company is a takeover target. Today, Hughes stock jumped 4 1/4.
Walt Disney lost another one of its top executives today. Studio head Joe Roth is stepping down to form his own independent film outfit, I should say. The move comes after the company had another record year at the box office. Casey Wine reports from Burbank, California.
Joe Roth helped make Walt Disney's motion picture division king of the hill in Hollywood. In 1999, Disney became the first studio with 2 films, Toy Story 2 and The Sixth Sense, to gross more than $200 million in the same year.
Joe Roth has done a great job with Disney's theatrical division. Disney's maintained the dominant position in the U.S. box office for 5 out of the last 6 years, while reducing the number of films they've produced by 1/3.
Now Roth is leaving, officially because he wants to start his own production company. Disney sources say there are other factors. Roth, whose previous threats to leave Disney were viewed as contract negotiating ploys, was unhappy with Disney chairman Michael Eisner's 1998 letter to shareholders, which publicly castigated the film unit for not producing sufficient profits.
The filmed entertainment business has just gotten tough. You know, the returns are 4, 5, 6%. You know, classically, businessmen don't look at those as terrific returns. You know, I think from the standpoint of just the business Joe was trying to manage, you know, the economics were just not that compelling.
Roth's departure comes at a time when Disney's financial fortunes are improving. While Disney shares fell Wednesday, the stock has recently rebounded from a 3-year low. That's the result of several factors, including speculation that Disney may become the next media giant to team with an internet company, the success of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire on Disney's ABC TV network, and the view among analysts that Disney, which did so poorly in 1999 that most top executives received no bonuses, has turned the corner. Roth leaves a legacy of blockbuster live-action films ranging from The Waterboy to Armageddon. His successor comes from Disney's animation unit. One executive at a Disney division tells CNN Financial News Roth's departure is a huge blow to the company. He also questions whether Roth's replacement, Peter Schneider, has enough experience in live-action films to adequately fill Roth's shoes. Casey Wyant, CNN Financial News, Burbank, California.
Another Hollywood heavyweight making news today, Barry Diller of USA Networks. USA is buying Precision Response Corporation for $650 million in stock, a near 30% premium over yesterday's closing price. Precision Response caters to companies that want to outsource customer services. USA will fold Precision into its e-commerce and home shopping units. Its stock fell more than 2 3/4, while Precision jumped 3 3/8.
And now for some other big stock movers. Razorfish jumped 5 7/8 after the website designer said it would split its stock 2 for 1 January the 27th. Drugstore.com slipped nearly 2 on news that it was buying Beauty.com, an online cosmetics firm, for about $40 million. Carnival fell more than 2 1/4 after the world's biggest cruise line reported a fire on a ship off the coast of Jamaica. It was Carnival's 3rd fire at sea in the past 2 years.
Rite Aid had a rough day today. Lehman Brothers analyst Meredith Allen cut the stock to neutral, saying the company wouldn't report results on time, and adding that she expected the New York Stock Exchange to delist the stock. But the New York Stock Exchange said it has made no decision to delist and is monitoring Rite Aid's situation. Rite Aid dropped more than 2 3/4, down a whopping 84% from its 52-week high. The stock has been hit by accounting problems, executive resignations, and weak profits.
And now for some other corporate headlines. The Federal Communications Commission revoked dozens of wireless telephone licenses held by the now bankrupt Next Wave Telecom. The FCC said it will auction off the rights in July. Next Wave had paid nearly $5 billion for those licenses back in 1996. And the state of Connecticut filed suit against Reader's Digest, saying the company overstated the chances of winning its sweepstakes. Reader's Digest disputed the charges, saying it conducted its sweepstakes promotions in compliance with all federal and state laws.
Coming up next, AOL President Bob Pittman joins us. His response to the skepticism over this week's AOL Time Warner deal. Stay with us.
6 weeks before one of the biggest games of my life, I felt a strange pain in my chest. What my doctor found was my toughest opponent yet. 3 of my arteries were more than 90% blocked. After recovering from surgery, lowering my high cholesterol became more important than football. Later, I was fortunate enough to coach my team in the biggest game of the season. That's the kind of play we need! Along with a healthy diet and regular exercise, taking Zocor every day helped significantly lower my total cholesterol.
Zocor is a prescription medication and is not right for everyone, including women who are nursing, pregnant, or may become pregnant, or people with liver problems. Your doctor may do blood tests to check for liver problems. Because serious side effects can result, tell your doctor about any muscle pain or weakness you experience while on Zocor and about any medicines you are taking.
When diet and exercise are not enough, talk to your doctor about Zocor. Take care of yourself. It's your future. Be there.
Tonight on CNN Newsstand.
I told you to get on my knees. My knees are right next to this.
When no law has been broken, does the long arm of the law reach out too often for minorities? CNN Newsstand. Tonight, 10 Eastern. Saturday on CNN. Election 2000 continues in the Hawkeye State as the 6 GOP candidates go another round. Election 2000, the Des Moines Register Republican presidential debate, Saturday at 2 Eastern on CNN. As the world ushered in a new millennium, CNN led the way with unprecedented coverage you've come to expect.
The hostages are being released
including the only live footage of the Indian Airlines hostage release. And first with the dramatic change in Russian leadership.
Boris Yeltsin has just announced that he is going to cede the reins of power.
Once again, the eyes of the world were on CNN, the world's news leader.
In tonight's Moneyline Focus, rumblings of skepticism over history's biggest merger deal between America Online and Time Warner. Both stocks fell again today. Joining us now from America Online headquarters in Virginia, President Bob Pittman. Mr. Pittman, welcome back to Moneyline.
Thank you.
Now, it seems that Wall Street has a few second thoughts about this deal. Would you agree with that?
No. I think what you're looking at right now is people are trying to digest what's going on. Keep in mind, there's never been a company put together like this. This is the first company put together fueled by the Internet. And I think people haven't quite figured out exactly how it works. Some people, I think, have made the mistake of saying, well, we'll take historical growth rates for Time Warner and say they continue forever, and AOL's growth rates will be added to it, and we'll average the two. Well, obviously, we're not putting the companies together for that. We're putting them together because we think Time Warner's assets, adding the catalyst of the Internet, dramatically changes their growth rates. Look at the two big growth industries of the 80s, the music industry and cable TV. Both in the 70s had horrible growth rates, but you added a catalyst to the cable business called satellite-delivered HBO, satellite-delivered TBS, and it dramatically changed the growth rate. The music business, within the doldrums in the 70s, you added one thing, CD. Now you look through all these assets of Time Warner, say, let's add the Internet to it. What does it do to growth rates? What happens when digital downloading becomes a reality because you can marry AOL with the music group of Warner? Is that the next CD? Does it turbocharge those assets? And I must tell you, as you look at the Internet business, what better asset to build on than one that already has a brand, already has loyal consumers, already has habitual usage. All you have to do is add a catalyst which changes the growth rate, and you've got surefire big winner versus the risk of a complete startup that's trying to build a brand. I think the problem we have right now is that people haven't quite figured out this story yet. We're going to help them figure it out, I hope. And I think this is as exciting a story as I've ever been associated with. And as you can tell, we're flying high on it.
Would you just briefly address one concern that Time Warner shareholders have, and that is that they have no protection if AOL stock drops? There's no collar on this deal. There's no breakup fee. They've got no protection.
Well, I think at the end of the day, we're putting these companies together because we feel confident, and I think without a doubt, that you're talking about the most exciting opportunity of put these assets together with these assets, and what you're really doing is putting the two missing pieces of the puzzle together. I think what you're looking at with shareholders is we will create value for them. We've done a pretty darn good job of that over the years. We don't intend to stop now, and I will tell you, I think 2 or 3 days of people trying to figure out a story and trying to shake out whatever shakes out in the stock market, I think doesn't change the value of the fundamental deal. And we think at the end of the day, the stock market always catches up to real value and the realities of any deal.
But Bob, so help us sort out what the realities are. For example, should investors expect the new Time Warner AOL, or AOL right now, to continue to behave like an internet stock? Is it still an internet company? Should we expect the same kind of volatility that we've always seen, for example?
Well, I think what's great about this deal is I think the volatility will be in terms of the business, and I can't talk to how stock markets value things, but the volatility of the business is reduced because missing pieces of the puzzle are added. And two, yes, you're talking about high growth rates. That's the business we're in, and that's why we did the merger, was to accelerate growth rates. There's no cap on growth rates. You know, I was talking to folks the last couple of days, and people were acting as if because there was a historical rate, therefore the line was always straight line.
It is, Bob. It is a complicated...
This deal is about catalyst.
It is a complicated story. Thanks for helping us sort through it a bit tonight, Bob Pittman. Thanks.
Great. Thank you.
Up next, ahead of the curve, some of what you need to know tonight before the markets open tomorrow.
Yes, you're watching Moneyline.
Ahead of the Curve is brought to you by Daytech Online. The rules of online trading are changing.
Until now, there has been a wall between you and the tools of serious trading. That wall is coming down. The information and technology professionals use to trade is now available to everyone. Daytech Online. The rules are changing.
Interest rates and high-tech earnings will be on the minds of investors tomorrow. We'll get the latest read on inflation with the Producer Price Index and the government's report on retail sales for December. Fed Chairman Alan Greenspan will speak to the Economic Club of New York. Wall Street will be listening for any clues on the direction of rates. And Intel reports quarterly results. Well, that is Moneyline for this Wednesday. I'm Willow Bay.
And I'm Stuart Varney. Thanks for joining us. Good night from New York. Crossfire's next. Here's Bob Novak. Bob?
Stuart and Willow, thanks. You remember when there were 10 Republicans running for president. The number's down to 6, but it's really looking like a two-man race. George W. Bush versus John McCain, and a one-issue debate over what taxes to cut and how deeply to cut them. We have Bush and McCain campaign operatives ready to pummel each other next in the Crossfire.
For all your financial news all the time, CNNFN.com. On the web, 24 hours a day.
Closed captioning is brought to you by Bell Atlantic, your guide through the wiles of communications.
On the Emmy Award-winning Larry King Live.
The Southern Baptists want to convert Jews. Both sides debate.